Hello boys and girls and children of all ages, my name is Leighton Todd for DIY Media, and today you are watching the first episode of the Leighton Todd Show. I am so excited to bring you this. Today I'm going to talk about 2018 and my predictions for it and so much more, so stay tuned. 2017 was a year of change. It was a year of change for New Zealand. US may have the Trump, and the US may look good with the tax card and with neutrality gone, and also Obamacare gone. But New Zealand doesn't look good for 2018. Here's what's happening in 2018. Just a little bit of what is happening. First off, is in April, the minimum wage is going up to $16.50, and that sounds all nice and dandy until you realize that people are going to lose their job. It's going to make it harder for people to get a job, and also prices of products and produce are going to go up, meaning that Wins is going to have to put up its benefits, and that is not good. That is a bad thing. The more money we're giving to people who really, a lot of the time, not always, again, hashtag not always, but a lot of the time, sit on their ass and do nothing. Do nothing at all. Okay? They sit there and they'll have another kid. Well, the kid is 3 years old. They'll have another kid so that they don't have to go out to work. That's what happens in reality. Or let's look at the people who are on the streets. They're on the streets because they want to be on the streets, majority of them. They don't want to get education and get off drugs and get off the drink, you know? They don't want that a lot of the time. Again, not always, hashtag not always, but a lot of the time that's the case. Whereas if you're gonna give money to anybody, you want to give it to the future. You want to give it to the students, the ones who are going to be doing stuff in the future to make life better for the country, who are going to give that money back, not only literally going to give it back through because they're in debt, but going to give it back tenfold through what they do in the future. That is the students. That is who you want to give money to if you wanted to give money to anybody. Also in 2018, we can almost guarantee that there is going to be a rise in groups like Papa, People Against Prisons Aotearoa, or that of Peace Action, which is an evil organization which last year took a protest way too far, when what they did was so dangerous it wasn't likely, just could have resulted in fatalities. Firstly, they blockaded, which is to block off, right around the Westpac Stadium in Wellington because of the Weapons Expo, what they dub as the Weapons Expo anyway. And so they blocked off the Westpac Stadium. What happens if... So, here's what they were trying to do. They were trying to block people from going in, right? But to do that, they still have to block people from coming out. That's just the fact of the matter. And I'm not going to sit here and say they would have murdered anybody. They would have kept people in if there was a fire. But if there was a fire, it would have harshly hindered the getting out of those people in the building. It's that simple. There is no other way around it. Had there been a fire, we would probably have seen deaths. Also that day they blocked roads that for some people led to hospitals, which could have led to death if there was somebody in major rush of getting to a hospital because a loved one was dying, or a loved one was losing a lot of blood, or even a broken leg for a little kid is almost as death. Seriously, it hurts so much, and you're putting that kid in so much more pain by giving them another 15 minutes to travel. another 20-30 minutes to travel because you want to be selfish and you want to blockade Westpac Stadium. Not only that, it is illegal to do that. It is illegal. Protest, all a protest is, in fact, you have the right to protest peaceably, peacefully. You don't have the right to block traffic. You don't have the right to block people coming in and out of a building, which could cause major, major serious consequences if there was a fire. You just seem not to care about you breaking the law and potentially leading to death. It's that simple. I'm not saying anyone wanted it. Maybe there was some, but I'm not going to accuse anyone of wanting death. But what I am going to say is it could have led to death. It's that simple. The reason I believe that it could lead to the uprising of groups like Papa and Peace Action Wellington and Peace Action Auckland and Peace Action Hamilton or Waikato or whatever you want to call it, whatever group it is, the reason it can fester and become larger is when you have an active MP, Member of Parliament, condoning it. Not only condoning it, but attending these events. Marama Davidson attended a People Against Prison Aotearoa protest back in, I believe it was October or September. Only a week or two before, she was attending that blockade that could have led to death. She was attending that. And when we have MPs attending crap like that, it kind of gets a little bit scary. Aaron Haines has gone over this and said it's not scary. He doesn't believe that she believes that there should be no prisons. I believe that she believes. Let me start again. Aaron Haines believes that she is just doing it for attention, doing it for publicity and that kind of stuff. Not a good thing if she is. That's evil. Secondly, we can't take that risk when voting. When we see that, we need to vote people like that out. We can't take a risk that they actually believe what they are at, what protests they are at, when it could actively lead to death or actively get rid of prisons, which a prison system is needed. I don't think people understand that we can't take risks like that. That's not something we can risk. And I know it sounds conspiratorial or whatever, but it's not. When you have people actively attending these events, actively participating in these events, it's actually scary. It's actually scary. In 2018, we're going to see more and more and more calls for Manu Island refugees coming to New Zealand. And that's not a good thing for New Zealand. Look, they're not, evil, these refugees. They're probably good people. But number one, we can't lose resources like that. There's 150 new immigrants that we're bringing in that we shouldn't be bringing in. Okay? Refugees are beside the point. Whether or not they are refugees or whether or not they're immigrants, we can't afford them. We can't afford to accommodate them. We can't afford to bring them over. We can't afford to assimilate them. And we sure as hell can't afford to give them benefits. It may seem insignificant when you look at it from a simplistic view. 150 people are not much. But when you look at it from a realistic view, 150 people are probably thereof tens of thousands of dollars on their own to bring over, assimilate, to orientate, which is to show them around the place, and that kind of stuff. We've got to also pay for their transport. We've got to pay for everything. on people who we don't know if they're good at assimilation. These are people from Manus Island, an island off Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea is a place where the people of Papua New Guinea cannibalize each other. That is just what happens. We don't know if these Manu Island, like us common people, don't know if Manu Island occupants cannibalize each other. There is no way to know. So it's not fair on us to bring over people we don't know what their culture is. We don't know if they're going to assimilate to our culture. We don't know. We have no idea, and yet the government is still trying to bring over people from Manu Island. They're still trying to get more refugees, over 1,000 refugees, into New Zealand a year. In fact, we're upping that as well. I think we're doubling it from 500 or so to 1,000 a year. And that may not seem much to someone over in the United States or even Australia. But when you look at our population compared to yours, how many people do you bring over? Because you have almost 30 million people in Australia. We have just over 4 million. We're getting into 5 million. It's that simple. It's that simple. It's not fair for New Zealand to be taken over by these cultures. So we need to know that they're going to assimilate. China doesn't assimilate. China comes over here and brings their culture with them. Not saying it's a bad culture at all, they just bring their culture with them. I'm saying it's probably not the best culture. I'd say the West is the best. But still, it's not a bad culture. The culture of fried rice and noodles, not a bad culture. The culture of respect, not a bad culture. It's about not bringing cultures over, it's about assimilating. Look at places like Samoa. Yes, they have still remnants of their culture, but they're not bringing their whole culture over. They still have like their food, they still don't wear shoes a lot, and they still would rather wear jandals. They still wear their little dresser things. They still have their culture of swiping someone with their shoe. I know. I've got a cousin who has Samoan heritage. His mum is Samoan, and she still has that culture because she grew up with it. So the Samoans assimilated good. There is things of good assimilation and not some good assimilation. Good assimilation, Samoa. Bad assimilation, China. We need to know what these people are like with assimilation. We have no idea what they're like with assimilation, and if they do not assimilate, then they bring their culture over. Multiculturalism is not good. Multi-ethnicism, or whatever you want to call it, I don't care of, but multiculturalism isn't good. It's not good. You're bringing all these cultures to clash into one country, and it's really not good for the country. It's really not good for the culture of the country. We don't have a culture here. We have many cultures now. That's not good. We don't just bring over the best cultures either. We bring over some of the worst. Cultures of Islam and Sharia law. We don't have Sharia law. But in a few years it wouldn't surprise me at all. We aren't a communist country or a socialist country, but because of all the Chinese, I wouldn't be surprised if in 50 years we are. Because we're bringing over culture, and we're not bringing over people. Next year I won't be surprised if Vanguard's military school is taken out, and a good dozen other special schools like that, which give children who ditched school, who hated school, gives them a purpose to be at school. You can ask anyone at Vanguard School who has been there, I guess, for at least a year, even 6 months. I'd go as far as 3 months, a month. Is it better than school? Is it better? Have you found your life better going to this school? Every single one of them will say yes. I never personally went to it, but every single one of them will say yes. and Labour wants to close all of them down. So does Greens. I don't know New Zealand First stance on it, and I'm hoping that their stance is no, because maybe they can, bring Labour back and not close them down. But I'm predicting that next year, if Labour gets all they want, that Vanguard Military School and dozens of other schools, at least a dozen other schools, are going to be closed down because it doesn't fit their criteria. Hundreds of students who otherwise would have been drug dealers, otherwise would have been on the streets, otherwise would have been pregnant by this time, with no father to help look after that kid. But they went to Vanguard Military School, or they went to the other schools, and they completely changed your life. Personally, I don't really want to ever go to a military school. I don't ever want to go in the military. I will if I have to go in the military, but I don't want to. It's not what I want to do. But some people need it. Some people need that direction. But Jacinda doesn't want that direction to be available. She doesn't want that direction to be available at all. And last, what will happen next year? There's already been confirmed that it's happening, is tax cuts have been cut out. National are going to bring tax cuts of mega proportion to New Zealand, but Labour doesn't want that way. Greens don't want that way. And New Zealand First have seemed to capitulate on every single topic that has been brought forth to them. They seem to capitulate about taxes, they seem to capitulate about immigration, they seem to capitulate about everything. And I voted for them. And here's the thing, they lied to the audience, they lied to the voter. Whether or not some of the voters will still always be with Winston because they like Winston. I liked Winston. I don't like liars. I don't mind politicians lying, actually. Here's what I don't like. I don't like when politicians lie about their values. I don't like when politicians say that they're capitalists, and when they get voted in to a power position, they turn around and say, oh, capitalism is horrible. Capitalism has lost its human face. I don't like liars of value. I don't like that. I don't like his value system. I don't trust him. I can trust a liar. I can't trust a liar of his values. It's that simple. And so he's capitulated on almost all counts. If you disagree with me, my name is Leighton Todd. You can tweet me at ToddoCharm, or you can go to DIY's Twitter and tweet me at DIYSMI. You can also email us at business.diymedia@gmail.com. We're excited to hear from you. Please do that. And I'll see you next time. I've been Leighton Todd for DIY Media. You'll be watching the Leighton Todd Show. I'll see you next time. But until then, stay safe, guys. And as always, Amen.